আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আশা করি সবাই ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন এবং ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন এবং বাসায় আছেন। Welcome to QOQ Asia Virtual Studio. This is Saif, your host from Singapore at the moment. And QOQ Asia Limited is now partnering with City Malaysia and our travel partners Plenty Holidays and Fly Airlink D. এই মুহূর্তে যারা আমাদের এই লাইভটি দেখছেন তাদেরকে অনুরোধ করব আপনারা এই লাইভ দেখার পাশাপাশি শেয়ার করবেন যত বেশি সম্ভব এবং কমেন্ট বক্সে আপনাদের প্রশ্ন এবং আপনাদের মন্তব্যগুলো করবেন। পাশাপাশি আমাদের ফেসবুক পেজে লাইক দিয়ে রাখবেন যাতে আগামী দিনে QOQ এশিয়ার সকল প্রোগ্রাম এবং কার্যক্রম সম্পর্কে আপনারা সব ধরনের আপডেট পেতে পারেন। Like always, QOQ Asia Limited would like to show undivided respect to the frontline workers of our country during this COVID-19 pandemic, who are working long hours every day to keep us safe, precisely to keep us at home and to keep the country moving on. Our doctors, nurses, hospital staff, lab technicians, government officials, police, army, journalists who keep us updated with the latest news every day, food delivery staffs, door to door, and of course, all the bankers in the country. According to the UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, the world is tragically suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Mandatory quarantines, lockdowns, and mobility restrictions have all become part of our lives as we try to stay alive. While we are obliged to shelter in place, home is not a safe place for everybody. This is especially true for women and girls who are under higher risk of domestic violence due to increased tensions in the household. The COVID-19 crisis disproportionately affects women. করোনা ভাইরাস আমাদের জীবনে শুধু স্বাস্থ্যগত মহামারী হয়ে আসেনি, সাথে এনেছে আরো অনেক সমস্যা, সামাজিক, অর্থনৈতিক, জীবিকা, নিরাপত্তা সহ নানাবিধ সমস্যা। এমনিতেই আমরা এখনো নারী বান্ধব সমাজ ব্যবস্থা করতে পারিনি। করোনা মহামারী নারী নিরাপত্তাকে ফেলেছে আরো ঝুঁকির মুখে। ইউএনএফপিএ এক বৈশ্বিক প্রতিবেদন বলছে, করোনা মহামারীতে গৃহবন্দী পরিস্থিতিতে নারীর প্রতি সহিংসতা বাড়বে। তাদের ধারণা, ভাইরাস বিস্তার ঠেকাতে বিভিন্ন দেশের বিদ্যমান লকডাউন যদি আরো 6 মাস অব্যাহত থাকে, বিশ্বে অতিরিক্ত 3,10,00,000 সহিংসতার ঘটনা ঘটবে। তাই এই ঝুঁকি মোকাবেলার জন্য আমাদের করণীয় কি, এ বিষয়ে কথা বলতে আজকের লাইভ সেশনে আমাদের সাথে আছেন, as we promised, Dr. Pinky Shah, Professor, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. We have Leslie Karen Hammond. She's the leadership consultant all the way from US. She is connected with us at the moment. We have Irene Khan, a writer, researcher, social actor, and founder of ICANN Foundation. And last, we have Rumana Khan, GBV, Gender-Based Violence Cluster Coordinator for United Nations Population Fund. So as we discussed, we are going to talk about should women get special attention in this COVID-19. I would like to go to Dr. Pinky Shah in regards to this topic and ask her opinion. What do you think in regards to this topic, Dr. Pinky Shah?
Thank you very much, Mr. Saif, to provide us this platform. And as if our topic is why women should need special attention. So first of all, giving thanks to you for giving us the special attention, being the women. And 4 of us are women, and we are trying to think and we're trying to discuss about the aspect for which we are here. So already we are in the crisis time. This is COVID-19. And if we see around us, most of us are just trying to struggle. Even the economies are trying to struggle with how to introspect the scientific and technical aspects, but maybe they are ignoring the gender view, gender need of this epidemic, which are generally common with most of the countries during epidemic or crisis time. And I'm really a little scared that this particular ignorance or not giving importance to gender aspect might lead to the another type of hidden crisis, which could be the major human rights crisis of the world. Because when we see the social media, when we see the news and lot more other things, we find lots of emerging cases of domestic violence and abuses around the world related with women. We can see the cases of China, Wuhan city, where there were lots of those cases recorded with the police. And the developed countries are not far away in this respect. This is really surprising. We find many cases of UK, USA, And even in the Brazil and Turkey, there are many reported cases. Women are struggling to get the basic, health need of theirs when they're struggling with the childbirth and abortion services even in US and Nepal. So it's really a time of crisis for most of us, not even the economic, but from gender aspect also. I just want to remind some of the opinion of the gender experts who said before that during the epidemics, there's domestic and sexual violence rise. Even this happens in natural disasters, food shortages. So this is not a different case which we are facing now. And we are all having the similar type of, experiences. So again, I just want to focus on, and I just want to come with the topic why women need extra or special attention. Just see the role of ours from the point of view of gender, male, female. This is different. We are also looking at the different roles in terms of the social norms, the division of labor inside and outside the home. This is different. So this is creating the difference. So we are here to talk about the pregnant women, the adults and girls, the refugee women who are in the shelter homes, the lactating mothers who really need those services which are their basic rights, which we are actually not intentionally, but we are avoiding and we are not able to give them. We can't deny the reproductive health requirement of the women, which nature has given them. We can't stop the periods. We can't stop a lady who is pregnant to give her the basic medical services. But this is happening, which is really very, very unfortunate for us. And there are cases that many of the women are dying because of this childbirth situation. They're not getting the basic immediate health facilities. And we can't deny that we are different, the men and women, the male and female, from the aspect of physical strength, cultural security, and sanitary needs. And we all take and perceive many of the incidents from our own, manner. I just want to ask one question to everybody. How about the household services? Who is taking most of the household burden? Who is preparing your food and assigning and facilitating you with lots of other care services without asking for a penny? This is the women of the house generally. It's not only in developing country. I feel this is around the world, and I hope most of you will agree with that. More or less, we are all having this type of, responsibilities. Yeah, we are ready to do that. You will never see a woman denying for these services. But how about their own need? How about if someone becomes sick in the family? This is the woman who is giving the care services without any monetary benefit. And this is the woman who has to come forward to take the responsibility. But what about her if she becomes sick? Is she really getting a cup of tea with a smile? I think it's really very rare. And we should actually think about this. So in most of the areas, maybe it's because of the social norm, it's because of maybe our own attitude towards the women. We are not very much supportive. We are not actually ready to accept that, or maybe we are not motivating them. So how the woman will get the energy? From where she is going to motivate the other family members? And generally it is perceived, we can also see that women are the pillars of the family. So how about that pillar, which needs extra attention, extra support from all other family members? And just see how many work women do in general, whether it is housewife or working women in a country like Bangladesh. They are doing most of unpaid care services, daily household work, and there is a real imbalance between the work distribution inside the home. And I'm really surprised to see one thing, that mostly at the time of crisis, we are trying to deal with the policies which will deal or which will overcome ourselves from the economic crisis. But how many of us are really trying to focus on those issues which the woman is facing every day due to this COVID-19 crisis? whole family member is present at home. She has to fulfill the desire and the food need and everything of theirs. How about the hygiene matters which she has to maintain at home? Who is going to clean the floor and disinfecting the home? This is the woman who has to put her shoulder forward, the hand forward to do those things. How many of the males of the family are really taking part in that happily? Yeah, the things are a little different among the educated people, among the urban areas, but in rural areas, the things are really very, very sad. How about the women who has to go through, they have to spend lots of hours to collect the water, and there are some cases of Asia Pacific countries who are already facing the drought. So how they're going to overcome and dealing with this hygiene thing and washing hands? Who is going to think about them? So I think the women, whether it is working or non-working, they are sandwiched between lots of pressure. And this pressure is creating mental problems, physical problems, both. And I think they need support in that sense. We are trying to save ourselves from this infection, and we are in quarantine, which is prolonged. The schools are closed. Schools are also assigning lots of work to the kids. Who is going to look after that? Who is responsible for those completion of work? This is the mother, maybe. This is the woman of the house who is also supporting their kids. But what about the girl who is also at home in rural areas or in sheltered home because of the school closure? They're at high risk because maybe they're also victimized by the peer males or outside males and becoming one of the abused by this epidemic, which is really very, very, serious in that sense. Just talk about the other aspects, like we know that women are working in most of the places, and especially this is the service sector where approximately 70% women are working. And this is food industry, this is health sector, social service sector. And you all know, we have seen that the frontline health workers are women. How about their hygiene things? How about their reproductive needs? How about their childcare needs? Who is going to fulfill that? Who is supporting them in their struggle? And many of them are single mothers. Even they are deprived from the school feeding program, so they are really struggling hard. And many of the industries, like in Bangladesh, whether it is textile, which is one of the base of the country's economic empowerment, most of the women laborers are there who are working there, and their number is again very high, approximately 70% more than that. So they are also in the fear of job loss because they don't know whether they will remain with the industries or not, and they will support their family or not. So I think it's really very, very important to think about all those aspects. And what about those health workers who are having those masks and covers? They are not made for their size. There again, it is designed for the male need, and they are getting the infection somehow. They're trying to protect themselves. So I think we have to think about all those minute details and small things also, which are really very, very important for women, I think. The other thing which I really want to focus, we all talk about social media. We are talking about how to use mobile phones or internet to, entertain ourselves for socializing, for learning some physical things and many more things. But how about those women who are in rural areas? Again, I will emphasize who actually doesn't know how to use the mobile phone, how to use internet, and actually how many of them have the internet and the phone. I think it's really very sad that most of them don't have. So how they're going to get some help from the crisis time if they really face it? How they're going to take the help of the social services? How they're going to take the help of the police if they don't know how to operate the mobile? So I think if we talk about different areas, women, whether it is RMG worker, whether it is health sector worker, whether it is the domestic worker who are helping us in our household work, they're all actually facing crisis because of this COVID-19. So I think we all should think together about this particular area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pinky. Thank you so much for the valuable contribution to the live session. At this moment, I would like to ask Leslie Karen Hammond, who is live with us from the United States of America. I would like to ask her in terms of this topic today, when it comes to women. So should women get special attention during COVID-19? Your point of view and why?
Mr. Saif, thank you for this opportunity. And I also want to thank our other colleagues here on the call. And I'm going to be completely transparent with my answers here. So when I first saw the initial question, should women get special treatment during COVID-19, without understanding the subtopic, my initial thought was, well, no, why should women get special treatment? This is before I understood there was a domestic violence component. And the reason I went to that first opinion of no, they shouldn't get special treatment is because when we are striving towards gender equality, it's a much bigger issue. And when we take a look at a lot of what is happening in the world, they aren't just women's issues or children's issues, it's a humanity issue. Then once I understood that the question was more focused towards, women and children who might be unsafe in the home, then I became tormented by this question because, again, it's a human rights issue, but now isn't the time to start looking at how are we going to resolve it, because there's a lot of support systems that are required to help these women. And again, in all transparency, as I'm wrestling with how to answer this question, I thought, all right, this is fantastic. We are getting on a call. We've got some well-educated professional people getting together to talk about this. But at the end of the conversation, what's going to change? I asked myself, what is the outcome that we're after at the end of this conversation? Will we be able to measure if anything changes at all? So I was grateful, when you had said, well, if just one woman could be inspired or influenced or impacted or supported in some way so that her life could be changed, then it would be completely worth it. And I couldn't agree more with that statement, because all of us have gone through our own trials and tribulations in life, and we never know when we share our story if we're saving someone's life. And as much as our own journeys become almost passé over time, we move beyond struggle, we move beyond the trials, and we step into this new sense of who we are, and we leave a lot of that behind us, and almost to the extent where we dismiss that story. And what we often overlook is the telling of that story. Even just one component of it could make the difference in how a woman takes a progressive action and stands up for herself or stands up for someone else. So to circle back to the support, and Dr. Pinky made a great comment about the support structures that are necessary. And when you take into account the vast differences between something in the city and then something in the villages, those are different types of support that are needed. And asking the question of, do women deserve special treatment? Well, they deserve consideration. They deserve basic human rights. And as anyone in a domestic violence situation deserves, they deserve to be treated with respect, and they deserve an opportunity to be safe. And the question becomes, well, how is that get accomplished, especially with what's happening now? One of the larger challenges here is the attitudinal shift, the perceptual shift that's required, because if you have a woman who is in a domestic violence situation, it's highly unlikely that one day she's going to stand up with her hands on her hips and say, I'm done, no more. Not to say it won't happen, it could happen. On the other extreme, you may have some women that resort to violence because they didn't have the capacity to use their words to say enough is enough. But she's taking her life in her own hands when she makes that stand, when she takes that position. And she's going to need some kind of support to be there for her. And then the question becomes, well, what can be done? So for any woman who, or man for that matter, who might be watching this now or on the replay, or for anyone watching who knows someone, has a family member who is in a domestic violence situation, it's important to start the conversation. And even if you can't start the conversation within your immediate household, start it with someone that you trust so you can begin to develop a support system. Because it's difficult to go solo, to go on your own, to move out of that situation. And a support system could be something as simple as hanging a certain color scarf out on a clothesline. Something that might be inconspicuous enough where the abuser won't notice it. To them, it might be just doing wash or hanging out wash, or it could be something else. It's important to agree upon that in advance, or to be clear, and to have, perhaps it's women in a neighborhood. And these women in the neighborhood, they agree on a certain signal. And, also, as Dr. Pinky had shared, women take on the larger responsibility. I almost said burden, but responsibility, of the cooking, of the cleaning, of caring for people in the family. So the likelihood of them being able to pull away is also reduced, because the desire for them to walk out of the house is going to be questioned. And if they say, well, I'm going to go to the market, and they might not be the ones that typically go to the market, then that will raise question. Although it's unfortunate that there hasn't been a lot of support system put in place anywhere under these circumstances, I mean, this is a global concern. At least awareness has been brought to the criticalness of this situation. And I'm trusting enough people will begin to start the conversation and begin to do something. Because I've always been an advocate of taking action. Awareness is nice, but it doesn't do anything. Someone has to be willing to stand up, be willing to, say take the first risk, ask the question, or be willing to stand in support of someone who needs help. And, for anyone that doesn't think one person can make a difference, you can look in a lot of places and find where one person has changed the world. So all it takes is that one person who is willing to stand up and make a difference. And I would encourage viewers to, if for those that have cell phones, you can do that via a phone conversation. For those in the villages, maybe women go and they collect water at the same time of day. Maybe that's when they start to have that conversation. But it's important to let them know that they're not alone. Because a woman, well, anyone for that matter, who feels like they are completely alone is less likely to take action, or when they do, they may take an initial action, and then when they're having a lower moment, a low energy moment, or they're not feeling well, or they're not eating well, which is going to be the case for so many in some of the rural areas, they're likely to quit because the effort is more than they have the energy for. Excuse me. So it's, it's really, it's a cultural shift. It is a generational shift, because most of the people in the family, they like it the way it is. They're happy. They can predict if they do this behavior, then, then the spouse will react in this way. Oh, she'll get over it, in 24 hours or a few days or a week, or, for some of the more affluent, oh, I'll just buy her something and that'll make it go away, which is by no means a way to deal with that. But once the conversation changes, and once we get the different generations in our families to realize or consider, maybe consider comes before realizing, when we get them to consider, it doesn't have to be that way. Just because it was that way for your grandmother, just because it was that way for your mother, and just because it was that way for you, doesn't mean that that's the way it ought to be. It doesn't mean that's the way we want it to be for our daughters and for our granddaughters. So let's start the conversation and let's do something about it.
Thanks a lot, Leslie. Thank you so much for a wonderful contribution. Now, I would like to ask Irene Khan. She's a writer, researcher, a social actor, also the founder of ICANN Foundation. Irene, first of all, I would like to, of course, ask about today's topic: should women get special attention during COVID-19? And on top of that, I would like to ask you, what is ICANN Foundation? What do you do? If you can help us, to know about ICANN Foundation, and of course, the topic we're discussing today. Over to you, Irene.
Thank you. Is my internet? Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
So, thank you so much for inviting me in today's conversation, and it's a privilege to be able to come up with my thoughts and be able to express what I do and what I think among all this amazing people and mind we have here today. আমি কি বাংলায় বলবো না ইংলিশে বলবো?
It's up to you, Irene. You can mix it up.
Up to me. Okay. So ICANN Foundation works to raise awareness against child abuse. So child abuse e kaj korchilam. From there, when I was going to schools to talk about sexuality, private parts, and good touch, bad touch, there I realized when I was trying to create a safe zone support groups for girls and boys to open up and talk about abuse, which is a big step for those who have been abused, to talk about it. Then I realized it's so grave, it's so huge and so big that when the children were opening up to me, it was too much for me. It was, then I realized child abuse is not about dealing with children only. Child abuse is about everything. Child abuse is about, because children are abused in the safest place on earth, we think is at home mostly, and by the people they know dear to them. Because children do not go outside, do not hang out with strangers much. So most of the abuse cases starts before they reach to their adulthood, especially when they are below 5 or below 4 even. So that when I was digging more into the topic, then I found out that trying to understand the causes of abuse, then I found out that it's not like what, like when you go through the statistics, Bangladeshe খুব একটা নেই যদিও proper data নেই, but worldwide data যেটা বলে যে 1 in 4 girl and 1 in 6 boys get abused. It shows the number is huge, and it's not about like it doesn't exist in my family and I am safe. I cannot say that. When 1 in 4 girl and 1 in 6 boys gets abused, it's huge, and it can be anyone and anywhere. So সেখান থেকে I was feeling the reason, and one of the reason is what my previous speakers already mentioned. It's patriarchy. Patriarchy is so ingrained in our culture, in our mindset, in our thought process, in our logical thinking, in our like prefrontal cortex that guides us how to behave. So সেখান থেকে I was trying to like explore the dimensions, and I saw that I had to stop it, to raise awareness. I have to work in all the sectors. Like I have to talk about religion, I have to talk about education system, I have to talk about patriarchy, feminism, political values, like talk about non-discriminatory approaches. People like the current system, patriarchy is everywhere. Child abuse is not huge only in Bangladesh. For COVID-19, for this lockdown, the number of violent against women cases increased from America to China, everywhere. So this mindset of patriarchy, this patriarchal system that gives men so much power over women, that women somehow also contribute in this system. And sometimes women when they come into leadership, they actually contribute in patriarchy. They don't come up with their sensitive ideas of stopping, but also contributing in the ideas that is already existing there. So when Leslie Heron said that women have to come up, where ICANN Foundation now expanded the work area and now works trying to create a safe zone for to initiate dialogues. So I do a radio show because radio shows are amazing to engage with people. It's a safe zone. You don't have to show your face, and people can come and express their thoughts, their comments. So I do a radio show which is called Bolte Mana. Bolte Mana means like the things that we are not supposed to be talking in the society, the taboo things we are supposed not to talk about. So I am doing Bolte Mana, a radio show, and I'm also trying to create a platform, a digital society. I will be launching it very soon, which informs people about social inequalities. We all contribute somehow in this kind of social inequalities. So I'm trying to promote mindfulness, and mindfulness is not only about yoga and meditation and keeping a calm mind. Mindfulness is about mindful living. What is mindful living? It's about aware living. Like my food I'm having, where is it coming from? The clothes I'm wearing, who is making it? The books I'm reading, the information I am feeding my brain with, what kind of information are this to guide me for my actions. So all this comes in mindful living for me. And that's what the platform I'm trying to create now. And I would like echo with Leslie Heron, like one person cannot do it. We need to come together. This is also a platform for all the people who think like-minded, who wants to break this cycle, who wants to come up and talk about it, but could not find the proper way out, how to do it, and where to go for it. Also a platform to give, I don't like to say voiceless people. Everyone has a voice, but maybe a platform to amplify that voice and make it more louder and bring more people in and talk about it. And I think together change is about to happen, and it is the time. Change is inevitable to happen. but I think this is the time. If it is not now, then like it might not be ever. So I think this is the right time, and I'm being quite pushy about spreading this kind of messages now. Like, yeah, what kind of education system we're having, what kind of books we are reading, what kind of content we are watching online and on televisions. We have to question those things, feed our mind with good information and right information, and together work on this. So, thank you.
Thanks, Irene. Thank you so much. Before we proceed, I have a question for you, Irene. I was watching an interview with EASR. You mentioned about hiring a male and a female employee as a discrimination. Do you mind elaborating on that? Do you remember that interview?
I couldn't hear you properly. Can you repeat your question?
Okay. I was asking, like, in an interview with EMK Center, you mentioned about hiring a female and a male employee. There is a difference. It was very interesting for me. So I just wanted to understand, what do you mean by that? I mean, in your point of view, how do you see this issue, hiring a male and a female employee?
Having a male and a female, sorry, I lost.
Right, like interview, যখন আমরা interview নেই, employer থেকে যখন interview নেওয়া হয়, a male and a female employee, so they try to understand who will be more beneficial to the employer.
Okay.
Is it a male or is it a female? And you mentioned something about in that interview. So do you mind to elaborate?
Okay. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, যখন, because I have faced this many times, because when I go for interview or in an interview board, একজন এমপ্লয়িকে একজন হিউম্যান রিসোর্স হিসেবে দেখা হয় কোম্পানির জন্য, রাইট? সো যখন একজন ছেলে and একজন মেয়ে, when a man and a female goes for an interview, interviewer thinks from investment and human resource hiring mentality. So they think if they invest on the male resource, so how the turnout is going to be. So that person would be loyal, would not take leave for paternity leave, for pregnancy or for marriage or all that. So, and even like in that interview, I mentioned that men should get paternal leave. And there is a conversation going on in the society. Should women get should leave when they are bleeding, when they have their periods? So, in the talk I mentioned that it's from the interviewer perspective. When they think of a woman, hiring a woman, they think that investing on a girl can be like সেটা হতে পারে যে long running, in the long run they might not give the return they are expecting, because a girl might take a break for marriage, might change their profession, might get influenced for getting married by the in-law family and all. Might take a pregnancy leave, might take another pregnancy leave, and they would not like to hire them. So when we talk about equality, many people misinterpret equality by being men and women being equal. But equality is a lot about equity, this mindset of equity and fairness. So getting equal opportunities where we lack. So yeah, the talk was about that. I think you mentioned that.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you so much, for the explanation. We really appreciate that. Those who are watching us live, যারা আমাদেরকে লাইভ দেখছেন এই মুহূর্তে, সবাইকে আবার অনুরোধ করব, আপনারা আপনাদের কোশ্চেনগুলো, আপনাদের কমেন্টগুলো আমাদের ফেসবুক পেজে প্লিজ পোস্ট করুন, যাতে আমরা আমাদের সম্মানিত অতিথিদের কাছে পেশ করতে পারি। We move on to next, Rumana Khan. She is the gender-based violence cluster coordinator from United Nations Population Fund. Before I go to Rumana, I would like to read out something which I found very interesting in an article of UNFPA. As the COVID-19 pandemic, economic and stress, coupled with restricted movement and social factors, gender gender-based violence, especially many women are being used to hold with abusers. At the same time, the system support survivors are being accessible. Do you mind to share with us your point of view in this regard?
Thank you, Saif, and thanks to the colleagues. I have been listening very closely to your deliberation, and it's very interesting to hear perspective from actors in different sectors. I apologize, and thank you also to Q Asia Limited for inviting me in today's webinar. I think it's definitely a very pertinent topic. But just to say, Saif, I couldn't clearly hear your question, but I'm assuming you were asking about the gender-based violence projections that has been published by United Nations Populations Fund. Is
yes,
that
the article, yes, the article I was reading, going through the article, and it mentioned that gender-based violence is increasing exponentially. Many women are being forced to lock down at home with their abusers. At the same time, that services to support survivors are being disrupted or made inaccessible.
Right. So before I sort of respond to that, I just wanted to, I think, emphasize a point along with what Leslie was mentioning. Your topic articulates, should women get special attention in COVID-19? My view of this topic is it's not about special attention. It's about women's rights as a human being. We live in quite an unequal society, as you all would recognize, and so it's in the current situation or pre-COVID situation, we still remain in unequal. We as women still remain in an unequal space. So. And that inequality is not giving that right to women is not giving special attention to women, but giving what she as a human being deserves as an equal to her counterpart. So and then if you look, if we are talking about should or should not, it's not really about whether it should be given or should not be given. It's about what is right. It's about creating that equal society, which many of the speakers have emphasized on. To respond to your the point that you have drawn out from the latest press release of UNFPA, I would substantiate those in the Bangladesh context. Those projections, of course, are made for global context. So I would highlight the three areas where we as UNFPA, but where the United Nations system as a system is also focusing on. And those are sexual and reproductive health rights, gender-based violence, and women in different other sectors. So going straight into the gender-based violence, which you, yes, the projection has been that there is going to be an increase in cases of intimate partner violence, around additional 15 million cases to be expected in this year, if the average lockdown duration for 3 months continues. And where do these projections come from? If we look at Bangladesh context, we know in Bangladesh, about 72.6% ever married women experience various kind of violence, and which are perpetrated by their husbands at least once in their lifetime. And this data comes from 2015 survey on violence against women. And but where do we, are these women heard? Where do they go? What kind of services are they taking? Do we know about that? There is the answer to that question is also not so encouraging, because we also know from the same survey that at least 70% of women who are violated or who are experiencing such violence never report or inform anybody on these issues. And I think the previous speakers have shared or indicated why women don't, because it's often viewed as a dishonor to the family. It's a shame, it's an embarrassment to themselves. It's the perception of women themselves, right? It's the, and a lot of the time they're afraid of repercussions from the perpetrators. And there are also a significant portion of women who thinks it's normal. And one of the speakers have mentioned that it has, the society is structured in such a way, or has been traditionally practicing norms in such a way that we find violence acceptable towards women. So, so given that context, I think these such projections are quite relatable. And why, then comes the question why the epidemic or the current COVID-19 situation will sort of increase that. I think from previous, you'll see globally from previous experience of pandemics like the Ebola, Zika, we see existing gender equalities are intensified. For example, within a household, when there is loss of livelihood, or when there is food insecurity, it's the women and the girls who are at heightened risk of violence, because they are, like Dr. Pinky was saying, she's the one who's providing with the food. She's the one cooking. She's the one, making those provisions of food. So obviously, it kind of, the perception is it falls on her to provide the rest of the family. And when she's unable to do that, she's at the risk of violence from mostly family members, intimate, and by the intimate partner or the husband. So that's one situation that we are seeing. The other situation is what, again, we know of from anecdotal sources, that many survivors are currently locked down with their perpetrators, because at this point, despite having so many, there are significant numbers of what we call safe homes for women who experience violence and need to be separated from the family or the perpetrator. Those are inaccessible right now. So so that's another situation that we see. And then the media reports. We see there's an increasing trend of domestic violence being reported in the media. There's a research organization called Bangladesh Peace Observatory, and their analysis indicates almost like with somewhere around 30% increase in domestic violence reporting in the media. We know from different assessments that are currently being conducted by development and humanitarian workers, that at least 50% women perceive within the household, they perceive this lockdown is concerning, because it's threatening their safety, it's threatening their security. So that with that picture, again, what I'm trying to stress, it's quite the projections are relatable. So how are we then addressing these issues? I call gender-based violence a silent social pandemic. It's a pre-existing condition. It's a condition that emerged from inequality. It's a condition, it's an act that reflects unequal power relations between men and women. And it best describes the situation in Bangladesh, this term, because we know where those are prevailing from. We know that it's the patriarchal imposition, it's the unequal gender norms, it's the harmful practices which are fueling these acts by the ones who are in power, and most of the time it's the men, but it's also sometimes the women violating women within the household. So coming back to what is being done or what can be done, because I think two of the speakers were emphasizing on not only identifying the issue, but also saying what can be done. Or what's the action that is being taken. So there are quite in Bangladesh we have what we call multi-sectoral program on violence against women, and it's run by the Ministry of Women and Children Affairs. And multi-sectoral program, I'm going to sort of take the clue from what Irene was saying, that when you are sort of addressing violence, abuse, and it's not only addressing that issue, but it needs to be addressed from many dimensions. It has a health dimension, it has a protection dimension, it has a justice dimension. It even has like a rehabilitation through, providing support, livelihood support to the survivor. So it has multiple dimension which needs to be addressed. And UNFPA Bangladesh is working very closely with the ministry, with the government in these areas, alongside other UN agencies and national NGO and international NGOs. And we are right now, what we are doing, we are trying to increase awareness around gender-based violence among communities and disseminate risk communication messages, and providing people with information with regard to where they can seek help. There are several national level helplines where you can call, ask for help, and it's a multiple variety of help that you can ask for, starting from protection to rescue to health referral to legal referral to legal advice. It's a multi-sectoral referral system that is being provided. There's also this women help desk. If anybody who's able to sort of come out and it really is in need of support, these women help desks are situated in the police stations, and from there a survivor can get all kinds of support and ensure her safety. There are to specifically provide support to the survivor of gender-based violence, there are specialized services like case management, which entails, again, providing psychosocial support to the survivor, because you're extremely traumatized when you have experienced such violence. There are clinical management of freight, referral, referral to aid, legal and justice aid. So, and these case management services have to be provided by trained and qualified professional. And UNFPA Bangladesh, with many other partners, is jointly working on those areas to standardize this approach, to ensure the dignity of the survivors is maintained, to ensure the confidentiality is maintained, to ensure that the processes are ethical and not exposing the survivor to further risk. So with that, but yet I think there's a lot more that we can do, and a lot more that needs to be done. Obviously, the major part of it is raising our voices and acting against these unequal power relations in the society. So the society needs to be vigilant. The community needs to be aware of these. But at the same time, I think policymakers and humanitarian community development workers, anyone, we need to prioritize or see protection of women and girls as a life-saving issue. It's as important as when it comes to food security or ensuring livelihood. So that with regard to gender-based violence, those I think what I'm trying to emphasize is the projections are again very relatable. The projections with regards to child marriage, which was also mentioned in the press release, is also again another very critical issue in Bangladesh, because almost 50% girls are married off before almost 50% women were married off before their 18th birthday. This is one of the very recent survey done by it's called Mix Mix in 2019, and we see this as also child marriage is also one of the dire consequence of will be a dire consequence of the current situation. And again, how are we sort of responding, or what action needs to be in place? I think it's the same that I have mentioned, that the society, the policymakers, everybody needs to be finding an alternate method of reaching these people in the community, engaging and keeping the messages strong and bold that these harmful practices needs to stop. In terms of the other parts, which I'm sure you have noticed, how why we are sort of advocating for women and women to be sort of in the priority for addressing the COVID-19, because I think this was alluded by Dr. Pinky at one point. It's with regard to women's health needs, and that to say sexual and reproductive health need. It's already, we know we need to understand the current context first. If we look at one specific indicator, let's say the skilled birth attendant, which is birth by professional, and that is a midwife, it's very low. It's quite low in Bangladesh. It's around 42%. We're still not every birth is happening safely in Bangladesh. So. And then there are at least 2/3 of those births, 2/3 of maternal deaths that can be saved or that can be reduced by ensuring that there is a midwife or a skilled birth attendant available. Women of reproductive age, adolescent girls have specific needs with regard to menstrual hygiene management, and unfortunately this is not only with regards to hygiene management, it's not only a rural issue, it is also an urban issue. And definitely it's an issue, it's in the impoverished household. So that's one aspect of, where women's response to women's or support to women needs to be prioritized. The other aspect which has been highlighted is with regard to family planning, which again is a basic human right issue, because we see this, the access to modern contraception will likely be impacted with the whole restriction and lockdown situation. And we know if we can substantiate that add in an evidence, we know that there's a high, or Bangladesh has a high fertility rate with regard to adolescent population, and it's in the highest in Asia. It's around 83%, and they would be impacted. They would likely be impacted the most with this unavailability of family planning services. So. In that, that is to sort of again echo what Dr. Pinky was saying, is none of these stops in COVID-19 situation. The reproductive health cycle, the birth, none of these stops. So we need to continue providing those services. And how are we doing that? The government of Bangladesh is preparing well in terms of ensuring there's an uninterrupted supply of these reproductive health services. We are ensuring dissemination of risk messages through TV channels, through social media. We are promoting telemedicine, counseling, and referral for these targeted population. So I mean, it's while there was door-to-door service even a month back, which had to be stopped. Now we are finding alternate modalities of still continuing to support the community together with the government and other partners. And finally, I would like to actually sort of raise two issues. I think when we are talking about health workers, we have in the health cadre, 94% nurses are female in Bangladesh, and around some 90% community health workers are female. And these people are out there; they are on the ground. You mentioned one of your family members are also is also on the ground. So these people also have this, because they are on the front line. We shouldn't be forgetting them, because they also have specific need to, in terms of their health management, in terms of their reproductive health management, in terms of their psychosocial health support. So it is. I mean, I think these numbers and these dimensions of looking at things only reiterates the point that the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting women disproportionately over their male counterpart. And again, I'm reiterating the point that it is not about special attention. It is about what we, or what women, as human beings, deserve as their basic human right, and it needs to be addressed immediately. I think I will stop there for now, and I'm happy to take on any questions or comments from the other speakers or the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rumana Khan. Thank you so much for your tremendous contribution to this live session. I'll straight jump onto the questions came on our comments, our Facebook page. The first question I would like to ask Dr. Pinky Shah. What would be the impacts on RMG sector women employee, especially for Bangladesh case?
Sorry.
The question is, what would be the impacts on RMG sector women employee, especially in Bangladesh?
We all know that this RMG sector is really the backbone of Bangladesh economy, because this is the main export earning sector also. And if we talk about the laborers of garment sector, most of them are women. Approximately 80% women are working in the garment sector. And this lockdown and the COVID-19 crisis and the security measures which we are taking for that, social distancing, quarantine, has really compelled the garment sector to close down, most of them. So I'm really scared that it might happen that many of them have this particular thing in their mind, that how they will cope up with the export orders which they have already prepared, or they were in the process of preparation. So most of the export orders are cancelled. So I guess that to compensate that, they might lay off some of the laborers, and if layoff will take place, this is the women who will suffer a lot. And many of them are the single mothers who are supporting their families from economic and the other aspects point of view. So I think this will be really very, very disastrous for the Bangladesh economy, because if they are going to lose their jobs, how they will survive? So I think here then also there is a sign of hope that the government has announced some stimulus packages, and there are something related with the social security programs. And I think if we could use this in a productive manner, in the effective manner, up to some extent, these problems could be solved out. And the government is very supportive there. It has already requested the factories to reopen. So I think many of them may get the job, but then also this overall worldwide recession might impact this women employment of Bangladesh, not only there, but around the world, mostly in the service sector and other areas where women are employed. So yeah, we have to be ready for that. And there could be some adverse impact.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pinky Shah, for addressing this question. I'd like to ask Leslie, which came to our comment box. What could be women's role to be in leadership position after COVID-19?
Question. Great question. Women can take on leadership roles as seemingly insignificant as in their own homes, for starters, because when women step into leadership, it isn't a smooth transition immediately. It takes practice. It's finding your voice. It's learning how to use it respectfully. One of the reasons the reason I was in Bangladesh to begin with, and the way that I met Dr. Pinky was, volunteering for an organization called the World Academy for the Future of Women. And, as a startup coordinator for this organization, I had the pleasure of interviewing hundreds of college-age women, seeing if they wanted to come into this program. And, a lot of these women had answers like, when we ask, why do you want to come into the program? Oh, well, because I want to make things better for, for women or children. I want to improve conditions. I want to see more, education improve. All really wonderful answers with a vision to create a change in Bangladesh. But the one thing that 99.9% of them had in common was a fear about, well, if I do this, what's going to happen? Are my friends going to treat me differently because I'm standing up and I'm using a voice to, to create a difference? And so the very first place for people to take on women, to take on a leadership role, is in their mind. It is to, I'm going farther than belief, it is to trust they have the capacity to be a leader. Every woman on the planet has the capacity to be a leader. I don't care who you are. Every woman has that ability. Most are just waiting for someone to come up to them and say, I know you can do it. I've got your back. I'll support you. So the first thing they can do is trust they have the capacity. The second thing they can do is start to use their voice in a respectful manner and speak up. Because one thing a lot of women run into when they start to find their voice, so to speak, and they use it, a lot of times it can sound arrogant and it can sound demanding. Because it's contrary to the woman that everyone knows, the one who's quiet, the one that will nod her head and will agree and go along with things. And so as soon as a woman starts to exercise her right for speaking, then a lot of times she'll run into some resistance. So circling back to the support, at least find one or two other people, whether women, that are willing to support you, whether that means being, having a check-in call once or twice a week or something, but to realize you have the capacity. And then second is to create some kind of a plan, because you can want to change the world. People want to do that all the time, but if you don't have a plan, you're not going to get anywhere. It's critical to have some kind of an action plan. And it doesn't matter how big or how small the plan is. It's just have a plan and have some reasonable actions that you can follow, have some milestones to meet, and to think it through. Because when, again, when someone doesn't have a lot of support, then they're not as likely to stick with the commitment. When they know they've got help, they'll do it. So just start, for all the girls or all the women that are watching, trust that you have the ability to do that. It may be a foreign skill to you right now, but it is a skill you can build. And with, QOQ Asia Limited looking to do educational courses, they may have leadership things available there for you. Take a look at what resources are there. Just because you don't have the skill now doesn't mean you're not capable of building it. There are so many resources out there. So just make a decision. Okay, I'm going to start now. Enough is enough. I'm going to make a change. And then keep that commitment to yourself. And part of your support can be having these other women or men reminding you that you can do it when you want to quit. So leadership has to start small in order for it to be a long-term, effective process.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful.
I just wanted to add a little thing there. Like I said before also, that women are the pillar of the family and they're the sailor of the boat also, whether the boat is big or small. So they have the strength, they have the capacity, they have the energy to take it successfully and survive at any moment. And we can see from data even that women are spending 3 times more energy and time to cope up with the household things if you compare this with the men. So I think they have enough energy and potential to go ahead with this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dr. Pinky Shah, to add your comment onto that. I'll ask Irene Khan one question, which came to our comment box. Irene, the question is for you. আমরা যা করছি আমাদের সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে আমাদের যার অবস্থান থেকে আমরা যা করছি we are trying our level best to make people understand of the situation. What else can we do to make our people to understand, to give more attention to women? Irene. Can't hear you, Irene. Hello. Okay, I think you need to fix your microphone one more time. I will in between I will jump to Rumana Khan one more time. Another question. Rumana, I have a question for you, which is, do you think this COVID made women job security more vulnerable?
Hi. So the question is whether women's job security will be more vulnerable. I'll give you a bit of statistics, and I think that will sort of give a hint of the answer. So there are about 93% women are in informal employment sector, and they're right now, when we are talking about informal employment, they're in sort of either daily wage jobs or jobs which are not necessarily very secure. And we know the current lockdown situation has already, in many industries, there has been, like Dr. Pinky was saying, job losses, particularly in terms of domestic work, RNG. Many women entrepreneurs have started off small and medium enterprises, daily laborers, cleaners. So if 93% of the women are in informal employment and there has been so much of job cuts, the answer to that question would be yes, women are equally vulnerable to this COVID-19 situation with regards to job insecurity. And more so because we are still a very insignificant number in the labor sector. We have just started our journey. The women have just started their journey in terms of, particularly in the formal sector. And with regards to now, when they are having to work 3 times, as Pinky was saying, taking load of work at almost 3 times more than men at home, it's very likely they will compromise that professional work for their homemaking. So it's that's of course not based on any research, but it's based on your reading of the situation. So does that then put women at a vulnerable position when it comes to job security in the current situation? The answer is yes.
Sorry, again, I want to add here something. Like, I was just going through with some literature, and there were some cases of Ebola crisis, job losses, and so many other things. So there it was perceived that the job losses were there, but it was really easier for male to get it back, but not very easy for the women. So this is also one of the experience which we have to think about. And when we will really try to restructure our employment policy, we should keep this thing in our mind, because it's not easier for women to get back their job.
Thanks, Dr. Pinky Shah, to add on again, and thank you so much. So I think I can ask Irene the question I was asking her. The question is, what else can we do to make people pay more attention to our women? Irene.
Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. Well, I would look at it from another perspective by saying, like, we have relied on the government and given our responsibility on the other people for a long time, and haven't taken the responsibility of our own democratic citizenship. I would say, like, we have to focus on self-knowledge first. Bangladesh is known as the poor country under famine, flood, and all, but Bangladesh is more than that. Women of Bangladesh are not laborers. They are only one human resource working in factories. They are bigger than that. They have various soft skills. In this time of this industrial capitalism, when people are consuming so much, women labor has been a good resource to tap in for cheap labor. We have to stop pitying ourselves. Like, women need to stop seeking for help from other sources, looking for empathy and sympathy. Women needs to come out, and Leslie Karen talked about trust. I would say they have to overcome the fear first. It is like the fear of, because this patriarchal system gives men so much power that they put all their burden, all their failures, all their vulnerabilities and insecurities on women and children, their expectations, things that they cannot achieve. They have put all their honor, expectations, and burden on women, and it's women's duty to be the Kali, be the metaphor of the honor, to carry the honor, to be. It's like anything happens, the shame is on the women. Even if men beats their wives at home, pedophiles touch girl child or boy child, but the shame is on them, but not on the perpetrator. So we need to understand this concept of fear and come out of this and stop pitying declare to become more as a global citizen and to have a global governance. So this is the time of being more global citizen. And if we are not prepared to act as a global citizen and take responsibility as a citizen and seek for my right and look where my money is going, question what is happening with the tax money I am providing to the government and for my betterment and take authority of my position. Like women have a tendency to hide their presence. Like it.
Irene, your voice is breaking. Can you hear me? Irene, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, your voice was breaking up. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Okay. So from where should I start?
Okay, so
Yeah,
so
so I'm so sorry
we are
about
almost-
my internet connection. I don't know why
no
it's
no problem.
betraying
We are
me.
about to end the session today. But before we go, I'd like to ask you in short, in one sentence, what would be your message to our audience, to women, in regards to this topic, and of course during
I
this.
think claim your authority, claim yourself, be yourself. Just claim your authority and be more active. And yeah, like stop relying on other people. Take your own responsibility and act.
Thanks a lot, Irene. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Dr. Pinky Shah one last time to give your statement to our audience who are with us today. What would be your last message today in one sentence to the women of this country?
Being a woman, first of all, again, I'm thankful to my family, to you, to QOQ for giving us the floor. It's not about, again, I'm repeating the Rumana's words that giving special attention. It's about thinking about women as equal partner, equal family member, and showing full solidarity with them and cooperating them with a positive attitude. So I think we can overcome from lots of problems inside our home and from, outside world also. So it's the complete solidarity thing which we want, the resilience things which we want from everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pinky Shah. Leslie, what would be your closing statement for us?
To every woman or girl who is watching,
Yes.
I promise you that you are worthy of being treated equal. You are worthy of respect. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done in the past. No, there isn't anything that you could have done that makes you deserve to be treated any less than a human being. You deserve love. You deserve respect. You have the capacity to be a leader. I don't care what anyone says. I believe in you. And there are a lot of other people who will believe in you. So please trust that you have the capacity and that you are worthy of all good things.
Thanks a lot, Leslie. It was really, really wonderful. Last but not the least, Ruman Khan, what would be your statement for today in terms of our women across the country, everyone watching us today?
This is definitely my personal statement, and it's what I myself practice. Be bold, be courageous, and raise your voice for your own right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rumana Khan. And we're going to wrap up this session. Thanks.
I have one question.
Yes,
Quick
please,
question.
Leslie, please.
Yes, I ask, is it possible for Rumana and Irene to post some of the links or phone numbers that they had mentioned as resources somewhere in the comments, so that when listeners, when people go back into Facebook, they can see the links for some of these resources?
Absolutely, Leslie.
Oh,
Yes.
that would be
Will do.
wonderful. Thank you.
I think Irene would agree with that.
Yeah, sure. I think
Thank
that is important. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you all of our guest speakers today. It was so nice to have you on board, and thank you so much for your valuable contribution. And thank you all the live audiences who were with us, who put their comments and questions. I'm really sorry that we couldn't ask all the questions you posted in our Facebook page because of time limitation, but please let us know how are the live sessions going on from QOQ Asia Limited. আপনাদের আগেও বলেছি আপনাদের প্রশংসা আপনাদের সমালোচনা একই সাথে সাদরে গ্রহণ করব, I promise. Before I wrap this session, I would like to remind one more time to everyone who is watching us, who will be watching us later on, please ask your neighbors how are they doing. Ask your relatives, ask your friends virtually how are they doing. Trust me, that's how we can be united as a nation, because we may have apart, but we are in this together. Inshallah, we'll get through this together. Stay safe, stay home, and take care of yourself. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.